I'm Richard Dodd, and you're listening to the Ecology Academy podcast. This is a show where we get to talk and learn about all things ecological, including interviews with top ecologists, both employers and employees, those working with ecologists, and also aspiring and inspiring career-seeking individuals setting out to make a difference. The show aims to provide you with insights, advice, and inspiration to help you succeed and excel as an effective ecologist and to make a real difference to our natural environment. Today I'm speaking with Faye Clifton, who works for Green and Blue, a design company based in the beautiful seaside town of Perranporth in Cornwall that ultimately wants to make a difference and a positive impact for wildlife. So Faye, welcome to the Ecology Academy podcast.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on.
Not a problem. How warm or how cool is it in Cornwall at the moment?
It is definitely, finally, much cooler than it has been. It's beginning to feel a little bit more seasonally appropriate. But I did have a dip in the sea this morning, so it's still dippable.
Oh, so jealous, so jealous. Yeah, we're in landlocked Gloucestershire, so we don't. The only time I get to go to the coast is absolutely right. If I go down to Cornwall or South Wales, and sort of Pembrokeshire area. So that's our area of first calling for the sea.
So we feel very lucky.
Oh yeah. No, but I do like Perranporth as well. So I've been there a few times.
Oh.
Anyway, we could talk about Cornwall all day. But just wanted to first of all, welcome. And before we start, sort of the hard grilling questions, Faye, of Green and Blue and yourself, we'd like to sort of delve into sort of the mindset of people who come onto this podcast with some very tricky questions. And now you've had zero preparation time, so based off on that, are you ready to carry on?
Okay, you ready to give it a go?
Okay, so the first one is a default question we ask all our guests on the podcast: is habitats, species, or ecosystems?
Wowzers. Habitats.
Good one. Okay. Terrestrial, freshwater, or marine?
Marine.
I mean, basically, I didn't want to prejudge anything. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll leave it there. That's a good one, though. That's a good one. Secondly, dream holiday destination.
Oh, it's hard to think about holidays after the couple of years we've had. I've learned to sort of be very grateful for where I am.
Yeah.
And the whole sort of not traveling and climate fear and all of that starts to make holidays less and less appealing, but probably Portugal if pushed.
Portugal, yeah. Okay, and what would you do in Portugal? How would you get there? You could say how you got there, or
this is in a van.
Yeah.
I'd get there in a van loaded with surfboards, skateboards, and nice outside cooking stuff. And I'd do a lot of sea activity, surfing, beers by the sea.
Yeah.
And cooking on an open fire under the stars.
Oh, I'm there.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Okay. Thirdly, bees, birds, or bats?
Can I have all three?
You can eventually, but which one?
I look after all three.
You do, yeah. That's why it makes it such a tricky question, you see. Yeah.
It is, but maybe birds.
Okay, that's a push. Doesn't mean that the other two are bad. Just means that one's got slight edge over the. It's like having a favourite brother or sister or a nephew, niece. Yeah, that's it. They're all lovely. And finally. What one thing would you like to achieve in 2022?
Ooh, I would like to look both on a personal level and a business level at really nailing measuring our carbon footprint and reduction. It's one of those areas that I'm sort of really determined to get to the bottom of, but there's so many different elements to it that I really want to 100% understand it and be able to declare net zero ambitions, but really understanding how.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good one, and actually that probably leads us straight into. we'll talk about yourself and your journey into Green and Blue, but also focus upon what Green and Blue do, where it's evolved, how it's evolved, and also the fact that obviously for Green and Blue and another company I work for, Wildwood Ecology, we share one thing in common. I'm sure we share many things in common, but that's we are both certified B corporations.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah. So that sustainability, that last thing, then just that feeds into sort of one of the sort of objectives of being a B Corp. Is that right? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you know, sort of being a certified B Corp is a real mark of your sort of commitment to sustainability and to putting planet before profit, but not worrying about or not being embarrassed about profit, because profit helps you do more good. So it just sort of, I think it's a mark of how you look at the world and the sort of impact you try and make.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, no, we'll definitely touch upon the B Corp element of that. So obviously I've introduced you as working for Green and Blue, but tell us a little about your role, and also your journey to that role, if that's okay, Faye.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, myself, I come from a sort of marketing and storytelling background, have grown up in Cornwall and have always been really connected to the natural world. I worked for my sister's company for many years. She's a textile designer here in Cornwall. So I sort of worked with her as she grew her business, and just sort of started to sort of feel like I needed to step out and do my own thing, which is when I came across Green and Blue back in 2014. I knew Gavin and Kate, who are our founders. I'd met them at design shows and things. And it just sort of fell into place that they were looking to sort of put a bit more focus into the business, change their direction a bit. Mm-hmm. And it was on my doorstep where I live in Perranporth. So I joined the team in 2014, and that year we won the Soil Association Innovation Award for the B Brick. And really from there, we've sort of worked, Kate, Gavin and I, sort of really closely together at sort of taking the business forward, becoming more focused on our mission. Sort of we had quite a broad product range when I joined the team in 2014, and then we sort of stripped it back to really focus on our commitment to making homes havens for wildlife.
Yeah.
So we really focused on our range of products for wildlife. So my role today is I'm one of the directors at Green and Blue, and I'm our head of growth. So I look after our sort of day-to-day running, but then also our sort of storytelling and kind of our outward presentation.
Okay. Yeah. So tell me about that, about the storytelling. So in terms of sort of the backstories then to Green and Blue. So you mentioned that Gavin and Kate were the co-founders of the company. So for anyone, obviously for our listeners, just tell us a little bit about that story itself, how it came to, how Green and Blue sort of came into sort of in production themselves, into being set up as a company.
Absolutely. Well, Gavin and Kate met working at Dyson and married, and both working there in sort of quite a corporate world, sort of lots of traveling, lots of busyness, lots of looking at the way Dyson started to offshore. And they both love nature. Kate in particular is a sort of avid bird watcher, loves wildlife. And so back in many, many years ago, the sort of early 2000s, they came up with the design for Bird Ball, which is a spherical nesting site for garden birds. And they sort of took this little prototype along to Stoke-on-Trent, worked with a potter to make these first bird balls, and they kind of knew they had something. So they ended up sort of leaving their roles, moving down to Cornwall, which has always been a dream of theirs. Mm-hmm. And starting Green and Blue. So that was in 2004. We launched with the Bird Ball Birdhouse, and it's grown from there, basically.
Yeah. What were those early years? I mean, you joined in 2014, you say, yourself.
I joined in 2014. They started the business in 2004.
Yeah. What was sort of those 10 years then? How was that developed in terms of the building Green and Blue? And you said there's a wide range of products that they had in the early days. So I presume then it was sort of narrowing focus upon some core products. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, Gavin is a designer and a maker and a tinkerer and an engineer, and he loves to sort of to create basically.
Yeah.
So a lot of that 10 years was workshop based. It was Gavin experimenting and creating, and both him and Kate come from a design background, so there were a collection of beautiful products, really well considered, really beautifully sourced. So they had things like cork bike grips that were sustainably sourced in Portugal, look beautiful and elegant on a bike. People still contact us today to ask about the cork grips.
Wow.
So they had things like that, beautiful sandcastle bowls, but quite an eclectic range. So it was quite sort of product and design driven.
Mm-hmm.
But alongside that, they had the Birdwall Birdhouse and our range of bird feeders. And Gavin, in about 2012, I think, started working on this idea for the bee brick. And it was kind of looking at the world around us, looking at challenges, and Gavin's very much about solving problems with design. And so you could see that solitary bees had lost habitat because the way we build is so much more sort of finished. We don't have little holes and little cavities in the same way we used to. We don't have so much natural habitat for them in the same way. We cut our gardens very neat, very tidy. And so he came up with the idea of bee brick, which is a nesting site for solitary bees that can actually be integrated into buildings.
Yeah.
And I think with that product, there was a real kind of, I mean, it took 2 years of development, and that, as I said, was around when I joined the team in 2014. But when I joined them and we started to look at the product range, it became very clear that actually our core range was the wildlife products, and actually the bit that we got excited about, that we were passionate about, was the wildlife products. Yeah. So that's when we sort of started to strip everything else back and focus on our purpose.
On your purpose, right? Okay. And you mentioned about the prototypes up in Staffordshire in terms of pottery, but they've evolved now, haven't they? So what are the composite materials that are used within your products then?
So in terms of our ceramic range, we still work with the same potters in Stoke that we've worked with since the business started, which is really lovely in terms of longevity of relationships. So all of our ceramic range, our bird feeders and our bird houses are made in Stoke and also just outside Nottinghamshire. But then our range of like more integrated nesting sites like the bee brick, our bat blocks, our swift blocks are all made by our team down here in Cornwall. And they're made from concrete, but obviously concrete has some awful climatic effects, one of the biggest producers of CO2. One of the reasons we used concrete is because we didn't want to kind of be talking to builders and asking them already to do something a bit funny, can you put this home for bees in your house, and can you do it in this strange material that you've never heard of, and that there's not much background about how well it works for wildlife species. So concrete felt like it made sense, but we also wanted to kind of mitigate for the fact that we use concrete. So within our mix, we use 75% recycled material from the Cornish china clay industry. So it's from quarries just up the road from us, and that for us helps to mitigate against that use of concrete. And then we're sort of keeping an eye on material developments as well to see if there is a viable alternative at some stage.
And that material from the china clay, that's a waste product as well, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the figures around how much waste there is, I should have them to hand because they're fascinating figures. But there's so much waste produced for each bit of china clay that comes out that it's a waste material. So for us to be able to use that and recreate that into habitat for wildlife just feels like a very nice circularity.
Wonderful, yeah. So, I'm very fortunate to have some of your bee bricks, and there are, as you say, that it's just a fantastic design, just a lovely design, and not only is it lovely design, they work. That's probably equally as important.
100%, but it is something that I love, is that I guess what we try and do to an extent is make nature appealing to people who didn't realize that they were who don't think they're coming in at the nature point, if that makes sense. They fall in love because it looks beautiful, and then actually it's a home for wildlife as well, and it's had this considered and this considered, and the company are B Corp certified, and part of my spend goes to doing something good. And so we like to have sort of lots of layers stripping away from each product.
Yeah. So on that front then, so aesthetics is probably a high priority for yourselves then. So your it's for your core range and anything you develop. So talk us through that. So what's sort of the sort of main points that people are sort of looking for within one of your products then?
So I think, as you say, aesthetics are a huge part. We are a design company. Gavin and Kate both come from a design background. So when you look at something like the bee brick, every element of that design has been agonized over. And I mean, I won't tell you the conversations that Gavin and Kate can have about a font size or where a line's going to go. And I'm not necessarily design in the same way as them, so I'll just sit and go, wow. They can agonize over things like that, but it leads you to a product that looks beautiful, that appeals to architects, that appeals to homeowners. It's all about very clean, simple, fairly brutalist design, but that's also been really considered from the species point of view.
Yeah, and I think from an implementer's point of view, that when an ecologist like ourselves, we recommend products. Obviously, it's the standard, these bat boxes and bird boxes and so forth, and looking at the materials. And there's there's a sort of wide range of boxes out there, but they are, as if you asked one of our clients, whether they would, which design they would prefer, they probably wouldn't prefer, wouldn't sort of choose voluntarily some of these designs, really. So it's sort of forced upon them. So when you have a choice like yourselves, I think that makes it easier sell to a member of the public, so should we say a homeowner.
I think that's definitely one of the things we felt. You want people to do these things because they make a massive difference, but then someone's designing this beautiful house and you're asking them to put something really ugly in. Yeah. They're going to be a bit more reluctant, aren't they? So that was one of our passions, was can we make it beautiful so that you're proud to kind of put this in? It's a real feature.
Okay, great. And so we're on to 2014 now. You've got your bee brick in place there. So just talk to us really about Green and Blue. So its journey. So I've been fascinated to know obviously the name Green and Blue. So where does that come from?
So it comes from Gavin's childhood memories of holidays in Cornwall. So he's always had a real connection to the county, and his kind of memories are of driving down. They used to bundle in his granddad's Land Rover, and he just has these memories of these rolling green hills and these clear blue skies. And I think, Green and Blue for him just kind of summarizes those memories. And actually, it feels perfect for us. We're passionate about our green spaces and beautiful green trees and green wildlife, and we're passionate about the sea and the sky, and so it kind of feels like the perfect name, really. No, I'd say it's seriously just I think it just sums it up in just a perfect name there. So in terms of your team then, so Green and Blue, you mentioned Gavin and Kate, so who else are involved with the design, making and shipping and the whole host of sort of business activities within Green and Blue? So we've got one of the things I'm proudest of is our little team. We've got 10 of us involved, and that's in a variety of roles. I guess when we sort of started to grow a little bit and making more things like the concrete range, we had a bit of a split, really, of we could go to a concrete factory and we could ask, could you make these products for us? Or we could take on that manufacturing and grow our team that way. And for us, we quite like control. We're very proud that everything's made in the UK. And so we went down the route of kind of growing our team to do the manufacturing ourselves. So we've got Chris and Charlie and Elliot and Annie, who are on our making team. They're sort of mixing the concrete every day, filling the molds, demolding, fixing, doing all the sort of elements that go with the concrete. We've got Gavin, who's sort of coming up with the products designs, tweaking mold making, keeping an eye on how things are going. We've got Al, who's our head of making, so he's kind of supporting the team on that side, just keeping everything ticking over. And then we've got Sophie, who puts all of our products together, boxes everything. And then we've got Alice and Annie sometimes packing up orders and getting those shipped out.
Gosh, right, yeah. So it is. I just say, I think choosing the right team is important. I imagine to yourselves then. So right people. So that learning journey then. So I imagine you never made products out of concrete yourselves before. So was that something that, as you say, you're sort of keeping it in house? How was that learning experience then? So was it trial and error, or yeah?
How is that learning experience?
How is it? It's still ongoing course, yeah.
Every day. I mean, I think the process itself evolves a lot. You get things like climatic changes. So as soon as the weather drops, the concrete takes longer to sort of set. You have to sort of put the heat cabinet on a little bit overnight. There's a bit of alchemy and magic to the whole process in a way. Like every product that leaves here has been handmade, has been touched by various people through the process. And that's something I love about what we do is it's coming from hands and from hard labor. There's definitely, we're learning all the time. We're sort of tweaking our mold design so that we can get things out better. I mean, at the moment, we've had to pause production of our bird bath product because actually we were finding we've got like a bubble that's coming out on every product. So we were getting a high fail rate, which is a shame. So we're kind of going back to the drawing board, looking at what might be going wrong there. So we're learning all the time, but we're learning that knowledge in-house with our people, which is great. Yeah.
And in terms of the take-up then for the products then, so who do you sell to, and who would you like to sell to the products to, and how has that process been driven, really?
So, I mean, on a very sort of top level, we have three main markets. We sell to individuals, so that's via our website, and that could be as gift items. Yeah. I mean, something like the bee brick looks just beautiful stood in the garden, as well as the fact that you can build with it. With Christmas coming up, it's a great sort of gift item. So there's the gift side of things, individuals sort of building their houses. Then we also sell wholesale, so that's to shops and galleries and museums across the country. We sell to places like Kew Gardens, the Eden Project, some brilliant shops and museums. We've just started selling to the Natural History Museum, which is pretty awesome.
Well done, congratulations.
And then we also sell to what we call our commercial market. So that is to builders and developers. And that's the side where we see sort of more growth coming from. There's more planning stipulations saying that you need to put in habitat for bats, for swifts. Places like Hove Council, Cornwall Council actually stipulate you need to put a bee brick in. Yeah. So that side of things is sort of growing, and that's where we feel like we can make the most difference and create the most habitat.
And what's the feedback been like then from the home builders then? So has it been extremely welcomed, or has there been obviously onward discussion, shall we say, in terms of the products?
It's a really interesting point. It is mixed. Yeah. I think we have maybe 40% come to us because they want to do it. Yeah. And they're excited about doing it. We have maybe 40% who are ticking a box. And I've forgotten what I was going to say about what the other 20% are.
Indifferent, probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, some people, you have a conversation, and I think where I sort of said about telling stories, when you can engage them in like the fact that swifts are on the wing for the entire time until they actually nest. So this box is the one place after them flying for thousands of miles that they will stop and they will nest and they will create the next population. People can't help but be affected by that, but you just need that sort of time to tell that story and to get them excited about habitat and what it means.
Sure. Okay, so that's very interesting because we as ecologists, I'm talking about ecologists now. So you engage with ecologists as well. So have they been? Do people feed into the design process, or is that very much led by Green and Blue themselves?
So in terms of the design process of the products, we've worked with our bat block. We worked with a local sort of bat expert and ecologist. So we really he fed into the design elements. In fact, the measurement we've got on our bat block is called Steve's Thumb. And that was from working with him. And then with our Swift block, we've worked with Edward from Swift Conservation. So we're not wildlife experts primarily. We are about design and about producing what we're hearing people need. We also work with the Bat Conservation Trust as we're part of their Roost partnership. So again, they're kind of giving us information about what's needed. And so in terms of ecologists, we're definitely talking to more and more ecologists, because I think historically there's only been maybe one or two options on the market for products for bats and for swifts. And then with the effect of things like Brexit and stuff like that, people are looking for more alternatives, and our range is becoming more visible.
And more of a, I suppose, a stable, if you can use that word, stable supply chain really as well. That's something that's reliable, because that, absolutely right. That's we recommended other products obviously, but when there is when we recommend a product and it's difficult or actually impossible to source, it's sort of we don't know sometimes that we don't understand the full sort of supply chain route, how these products are, where they're manufactured, how they're actually distributed and brought to the UK from outside, places like Germany and other places across Europe, or even further afield, and obviously adds miles to the carbon footprint to these products really.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said about supply chain issues, and you go through so many hurdles, to get a stipulation that this home for bats or for swifts has to go into this building, and then they're 8 months away from getting the product and they don't make it in. Like what an absolute disaster that everything's like happened to get to that stage, and then the product doesn't arrive and it doesn't happen. So then the wildlife species are losing out because of supply chain issues. So we're trying to sort of shut that gap.
Wonderful, because I can, we certainly see that it is an issue that we fought hard to actually get some of these designs into a design scheme, and then only to be told actually we're having problems sourcing these, and it doesn't, unfortunately, it puts the species as the problem. When actually it's a wider issue than that, much wider issue. Yeah. So in terms of proving that these products work, then, so you've worked with designers, as you say, and so case studies. Then, how important is that to you to actually demonstrate to these home builders and to others that actually your products not only look fantastic but actually work?
Absolutely. I mean, case studies is the sort of biggest area of focus sort of now. So part of working with the Bat Conservation Trust and the Roost partnership is about studying, is about measuring, because you don't want to sort of just be doing things and not know this. The whole area of sort of man-made habitat is still relatively new, and it is still relatively unstudied. So we're kind of looking at working with various partners to build out some much larger citizen science case studies to start to really understand those measurements. Because also, if you've suddenly got 4 case studies showing the uptake of bats, the uptake of swifts, the uptake of solitary bees, well, then we don't need to do much of a job anymore, because the stories tell themselves, and then why wouldn't you? So for us, the case studies is a really sort of big focus.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's it. Cause, it's just proving the concept really. And then, I mean, obviously, it would be an ideal scenario that then it becomes in one way the default go-to option then, isn't it, really? That's actually, we know these work, we don't have to think about it too much, and that's sort of complacent. Well, I say complacency in when there's a limited market. It's going, well, actually, this product, we know it works because of X amount of trials, but now there are clearly resource issues, with some of these, the previous models, really. Interesting. So, we mentioned about bees, birds, and also including swifts. Obviously, your swift boxes, their design. What else is Green and Blue working on at the moment? I mean, is it different designs of those, or any other species we should be looking out for?
So we are launching new habitat for sparrows in the new year. There's things like sparrow terraces on the market already, but actually sort of experts that we've had conversations with, it seems to be becoming more and more apparent that sparrow terraces aren't the best habitat for them, and actually they're quite territorial. So you have these sort of multiple habitats in a row and they're not being used in that way. So we're working on a slight alternative to those, which we are hoping to launch in the spring of 2022. And I shall make sure we update you on that as soon as there's more info. And there's some additional habitats being created within that, which again we'll be able to sort of talk more about in the new year. And then we are, I guess, partly as well looking at alternative material choices, trying to keep abreast of the way that building's changing. Obviously, block and brick aren't as common potentially as they have been. Things are sort of moving on. So how can we keep up to date with that? And then basically, I mean, our mission is to make homes havens for wildlife. So what species can we cohabit with? Yeah. What else can we make habitat for? And that's where our focus is. So I guess, watch this space.
Watch this space, yeah, indeed. And I'd also like to ask a question now regarding, I mean, we touched on it right at the start of the recording, and that is your B certification, B Corporation certification. So could you just, how important is that to Green and Blue, and how was the process, gaining certification, and not only gaining certification, but actually living up to that I would say status. But I mean, we're not talking about status, but in terms of expectations of a B Corporation, should we say?
Yeah, absolutely. So we certified in November 2018. So we've actually just had our first sort of recertification this year. And it's a funny one. I think we're really, really proud to be a certified B Corp. And I think it gives us a sort of a framework as we grow for how we do that growth. It makes us think about things we might not have thought about otherwise. And it gives us access to a network of like-minded companies and individuals. So sort of a closer connection with people like yourself, because we're both B Corps, you suddenly have this connection almost. But at the same time, it's not our everything. As a business, we are a purpose-driven business. So I think when I talked earlier about layers, for us, B Corp's one of those layers, and it is a very transparent mark to the outward-facing person that you can trust us, but actually it's a mark, but it goes so much deeper, our sort of commitment to people and planet.
I think you're right. I think as you say, it is a layer, because it's one of these things that you still, I mean, this is not doing B Corporation any disservice at all, but you'd still be the same company without that certification, isn't it? It's just, as you say, it's an extra layer. So for some people who see it as a badge, it's clearly the wrong choice, isn't it? It is just an extra layer.
And I think that is so true. When you go through the certification process, it is a bit of a one size fits all, because it has to fit so many different industries, and so it's it's what you do with it that counts, I think. And it's another layer, and one that we're very proud of, but we 100%, as you said, we would be doing the things we do regardless.
Yeah, I know. I think when we went through the process, it's for those who are thinking about it, it is a very rigorous process. It makes you
Yeah,
think about everything you do, right from, the
absolutely.
people, how you hire, how you manage people, but also your suppliers, the governance of the whole company, shareholders and all that aspect to it. And working towards the sustainable development goals, isn't it? I think that's
Yeah,
just makes you think a little bit more. So it's great that we think of these extra things. So it has promoted changes within our company. Just I think just sort of brings those light bulb moments to you. But actually, we can
yeah.
improve in just even small changes will make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I think even just being sort of within the network of B Corp, you hear about things like the Better Business Act.
Yeah.
You're regularly exposed to sort of the declarations of net zero.
Mm.
You're thinking about things like your business banking and where you invest your pension. And it's stuff that you just might not be on your radar in the same way
Yeah.
if you weren't sort of within that network and thinking that way.
Yeah, and I think if some companies took a little bit more of a that's a similar approach, whether they go before B certification or not, it's the process of actually thinking about everything you do, every single layer. The laptop you're
Yeah,
using, the phones, your mobile phones you're using, the mobile phone contract you're using, the bank you're with. It's absolutely every single layer. Has an impact. Our conversation today will have an impact.
yeah.
The emails sent out, they all have an impact. Where are your servers? Oh, we can talk about that. But I know, and
You can tie yourself up in knots, can't
you
you?
can, and I think that's one area where I think we're seeing a little bit more of sort of I suppose it's you know this anxiety. So as though eco anxiety, isn't it? That once you become aware, you can't ignore it.
No, no, it's a tough, yeah, I think climate anxiety, eco anxiety
Yeah,
is definitely a thing. And the more aware you become, this was one of the conversations actually. We had a B Corp social here in Cornwall recently, and that was kind of the resounding point was the people who are doing the most are the more guilty or feeling the worst about how much they're doing or how little they're doing. It's a sort of funny thing that when you're aware of how much you can do,
yeah.
you feel guilty all the time.
That's it. Because I mean, I think how we'd like to see is it's work in progress, and but that
Yeah,
progress needs to be, expedited. We need to make sure that we are pushing all the time towards, a greater level of sustainability, and yeah, it goes back to your, making that difference, making a difference, a positive impact for the environment, for wildlife.
yeah, absolutely. And having conversations like this, and if one person listens to this and decides to look at B Corp certification or change their business banking,
Yeah,
then you've had an impact,
yeah.
haven't you? So yeah, where can we share those voices and have those impacts and do little bits ourselves?
Absolutely. Great, great. Well, in terms of, I mean, just starting to sort of wrap a few things up then, Faye. What's Green and Blue is? I mean, you mentioned about a few designs you're working on now, but so I mean, we're recording this just before Christmas. This may come out just after Christmas, but so how are you going to? Do you phase down over that period of time, or is it pretty much all cylinders going on throughout the sort of Christmas New Year period?
We generally have from now until December the 22nd, I think we're closing for Christmas, is pretty frantic. So, as I sort of mentioned, the range is sort of good gifting. So, alongside the other sort of channels we sell through, it's sort of, yeah, selling on our website as gifts. So, this is a really busy time for us. We shall be eating quality street to get through each day, packing multiple orders, and yeah, sort of it's great fun, but
Yeah.
it is very busy. And then we tend to shut on 22nd of December, and we tend to all have around 2 weeks off, which is lovely. Gives everybody a chance to chill,
Mm.
recalibrate, come back fresh in the new year. So we actually sort of put a note out on our social and our website and everything to just say we are closed, because in this day and age,
yes,
you're not really sort of allowed to switch off, are you? But actually, let's not look at our phones or think about anything but our families and the great outdoors for a couple of weeks. And then we'll come back in the new year ready to go again.
Yeah. So in terms of where people can find Green and Blue, I mean, what sort of, what's your, it's a great plug for your website and other social media channels, if you like.
Absolutely. Well, so yeah, our website's a great place to start, and that is greenandblue.co.uk. Green, the written word, and blue.co.uk. And then you can find us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. And we're Green and Blue or Green and Blue UK on all of those. And we try and, I mean, I said our mission was making homes havens for wildlife. Our vision is about reconnecting people with nature. Yeah. So on all of those channels, you'll get lots of sort of bits about our product, but also sharing sort of stories and inspiration and things we're learning and that sort of thing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you ever so much, Faye, for joining us on the Ecology Academy podcast today. Wish you all the best, both you personally and also to Green and Blue. And I shall continue to purchase your wonderful bee bricks basically for myself, but also they do make great gifts, everyone, not just for Christmas, but also encouraging our clients as well to to adopt these within their designs as well, and we'll also feed back on their use to you as well, because I imagine that's going to be quite important too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Fab. Right. Well, great. So, thank you very so much for joining us today on the Ecology Academy podcast.
Thank you very much, Richard. Lovely to chat to you.
If you enjoy our show and want to help, then please click on the subscribe button and rate us on your favourite podcast player, as that's how you can inspire ecologists in the making, help retain great talent, and provide insights of our industry to a much wider audience of why ecology really does matter. Thank you. And remember, learning is a lifelong endeavour, so stay curious, be adventurous, and build bridges for others to cross.